Today, I have a story for you guys submitted by a subscriber about this kid who claims he is the #1 Roblox hacker. The stuff that this kid says he does is just insane, and overall the story is pretty funny. I know you guys are gonna love it. Leave a like for free air, and while you're at it, subscribe or leave a follow, depending on where you're listening, which if you didn't know, all of these stories are listenable anywhere where podcasts are available. You can look up KeidStories, or click the link in the description or in the pinned comment. With that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So when our subscriber was in middle school, they say that there was this kid named Tim. Now Tim always told everybody that he was a Roblox hacker. Anytime the subject of Roblox came up, Tim would get all excited and tell people that he knows how to hack in the game and get free Robux. Not only this though, Tim would go up to the kids that he knew played Roblox and he would try to scare them by saying that he was going to steal their Robux, saying that he already has millions in his account and he's just going to get more and more from them. Now, whenever Tim first started saying stuff like this, some of the kids actually seemed to believe him. But as time went on and Tim didn't hack anybody or steal anybody's Robux, it became clear that Tim was capping big time. And honestly, our subscriber says that it seems like most of the things that Tim said were just straight cap. Like pretty much anytime he talked, it was a lie. So anyways, one day during computer class, our subscriber talks about how they think Tim wanted to show off his hacking skills to the class because they saw Tim sit down at a computer and launch Roblox. Now, our subscriber does in fact have to give credit where credit is due, and they were honestly impressed by the fact that he was actually able to run Roblox on the school computers because it was blocked for everybody else. But Tim did actually know a way around this. Now, I'm doubting he was doing any hacks or anything. He probably just watched a YouTube video or Googled how to run Roblox on a blocked school computer. But I mean, still, he got it running. Meanwhile, none of the other kids could. So this was something Tim would often do though. He would often go on the computer and pull up Roblox. Anyways, as he's sitting at his computer with Roblox open, he tries to get the people around him's attention by saying, "Watch this." And this is whenever Tim starts to type away furiously at his keyboard. A subscriber said it was kind of like those hackers in movies whenever they just start typing away and you can tell they really aren't typing anything, but they seem like a hacker. Well, that's what Tim was doing. Our subscriber already knew what was going on, so they just rolled their eyes and went back to their own computer because they knew that he was just trying to get attention once again. Most of the things Tim did were to get attention. I mean, he wasn't lying just for fun, he was lying to get attention, and he liked to have eyes on him. Anyways, as he was sitting there typing away at the keyboard with Roblox opened up on there, suddenly, to the subscriber's surprise, Tim's computer screen went completely black. One of the kids sitting next to him went, "Whoa, did you really hack Roblox?" And that's whenever Tim smirked, crossed his arms, and went, "Of course, I can hack anything." And at this point, everyone's eyes were glued to Tim. Was he telling the truth this whole time? Was he actually a master hacker? But then, to everyone's disappointment, Tim's screen flickered back on, and Tim's Roblox account was completely unchanged. You see, Tim was claiming that he was gonna hack some of the rarest items in Roblox onto his character, but like our subscriber said, nothing changed. Now, Tim, obviously frustrated at this, just goes, what happened? You could tell that he was just aware at this point that everyone knew he was capping. And then that same kid who was shocked at first, the one who was like, "Did you really hack Roblox?" now instead said, "I don't know, man. Looks like your hacking skills need some serious work." And everyone in the class, including our subscriber, started to laugh, or at least they let out a little chuckle. Tim just grumbled and sat back in his seat with his arms crossed, muttering something about how the computer was too old and slow for his advanced hacking techniques. Yeah, of course, just blame it on the computer. It's totally not because you have no idea what you're talking about and you just want attention. No. It's obviously because it's a old computer. I mean, that could be true, so I mean, it's a good excuse, but I mean, this middle schooler is definitely not hacking stuff, especially because he has yet to prove anything at all, other than the fact he could just get Roblox up and running, which, I mean, doesn't mean much. I know I was able to do that on my school computers just from watching a YouTube video, and probably a lot of you guys watching were able to find a way around the blocker on the school computers as well. I mean, they weren't that secure. I don't know about now. Maybe the blockers are more advanced since technology has advanced since I was in school, which still wasn't that long ago, but after the past 1 or 2 years, technology has just really advanced a ton. Anyways, the weeks carrying on after that event, Tim's claims became more and more outlandish. Our subscriber says that he would brag about having rare skins that nobody else had. See, prior he said he was going to get the skins and hack them into the game, but now he was telling everybody that he actually had the skins. But when our subscriber asked to see his account and for him to prove that he had all these rare things like the headless horseman and stuff like that, he always had an excuse. Either, oh, he was too busy playing on his phone, or he couldn't remember his login out of nowhere, or some other lame reason. Which, by the way, him being on his phone, isn't there a Roblox app where you could like show your Roblox character, or even just straight up play Roblox on the phone? Like, why couldn't he just open up the app and go to avatar? I feel like that's a very easy task to do no matter what game you're in the middle of. So yeah, like the subscriber said, lame reasons. Anyways, one day, Tim came to school all excited, and he started telling everybody that he was mentioned in the YouTuber KeidStories video about Roblox hackers. I'm telling you guys, he said excitedly, I'm on my way to becoming one of the most famous Roblox hackers in the world. Our subscriber instantly knew he was lying here, and they just rolled their eyes at him once again, knowing he was completely full of it. Our subscriber asked Tim which video of KeidStories that he was on, and Tim once again responded with something lame. He was like, I don't remember the video title exactly, but if you just look through KeidStories videos, surely you'll find it. Well, our subscriber went home that night and looked through KeidStories videos and couldn't find any videos talking about Tim. I mean, sure, Creek would talk about different Roblox hackers and people who send stuff in messages and stuff like that, but nothing about Tim specifically. Anyways, the next day, Tim was walking down the hallway and he was just bragging to anybody who would give him even a second of attention, going on about his hacking skills and the fact that he has millions of Robux and that they're poor on Roblox and he's rich. And that's whenever one of the kids called him out. Dude, you're lying, the kid yelled at Tim. I've seen your Roblox account and you don't have any rare skins or millions of Robux. You're just making it all up. Tim's face turned bright red as everyone in the hallway turned to look at him. No, that's not true, Tim said. I just don't want to show you guys my account because I don't trust you. Yeah, sounds legit. He doesn't trust to show people his account. Why does he need people's trust to show them his Roblox account that he does nothing but brag about? I mean, if you're gonna rub this in everybody's face, at least have the proof to show them that you aren't lying about all of this. Like, it's just weird to brag and brag and brag, and then whenever somebody asks you to prove what you've been bragging to them and talking to them about for the past few weeks or months or whatever, you can't show them because you're just straight up lying about it. Like, you know, sometimes a little white lie doesn't hurt too bad, but just constantly lying about the same thing, it's just way too much. Anyways, this kid who was confronting Tim pulled out his phone and showed everyone a screenshot that he had taken of Tim's account. Sure enough, there was no rare skins, no millions of Robux, and just a few of the basic items that anybody who signs up to Roblox would get. Tim was frantically trying to come up with more and more excuses about how this wasn't his account and how it was a glitch that his skins weren't showing up. And he pretended to act all confused that his skins weren't there. If those two excuses weren't enough though, he started making accusations that this kid had photoshopped the screenshot and that the screenshot was completely fake. You could tell that Tim was just scared that people were going to find out that he was 100% absolutely lying. I mean, everyone basically knew at this point. Maybe he had 1 or 2 kids convinced because, I mean, well, he talked about it so much, but it was clear at this point that he had been caught red-handed. It was very obvious that that was actually Tim's Roblox account, and he had nothing on the account at all. Not even any items that like $1 worth of Robux could buy. His character was the most basic it could be. Since he came up with so many different excuses and different reasons as to why that screenshot was fake, at that point, everyone listening in just knew 100% that he was lying. And of course, word spread around the school, and everyone knew that he was full of cap, if they somehow didn't know before. From that day on, Tim finally stopped talking about his supposed hacking skills altogether. Our subscriber notes that they do feel a bit sorry for him, knowing that he was just simply trying to impress everyone. Also, the fact that he had nothing on his account, maybe he was just trying to make himself feel better and feel like the other kids who their parents give them money to buy stuff. But at the same time, our subscriber was also super relieved that he got to finally stop talking about all the hacking and stuff like that, and they finally didn't have to be annoyed by him talking about that stuff every day. Our subscriber, looking back on it now though, can't help but wonder what happened to Tim. Did he continue to make up stories to try to impress people down the line? Or did he finally learn that lying that much is not a good thing, and that there's better ways to impress people? I mean, at the end of the day, our subscriber will never know because he no longer goes to the same school as them. He transferred just a year ago because supposedly his parents got a new job in a different city, but it could potentially be because he may have been complaining to his parents to move to a different school. And if he was doing that, it would have been because he knew that he couldn't make up any lies. I'd like to think that that isn't the reason though. Anyways, it's not really cool to be a Roblox hacker. I mean, it would be cool to have a lot of Robux or whatever in the game, I guess, but hacking people and stealing stuff from their accounts that they spend money on is not something to lie and brag about. That's something that I would actually not want people to think that I do. Today, I have a story for you guys about one of my classmates who was so hungry that he decided to eat our class pet as a snack. I know it sounds insane, but trust me, you just gotta hear this. Like the video and you'll be able to fly. Yeah, that's right, we're handing out superpowers now. Also subscribe, we're trying to hit 1 trillion subscribers. Anyways, with that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So this absolutely insane story happened my freshman year at high school. Now, my school was really small. I think I graduated with around 70 people. So each of our classes only consisted of like 10 to 15 students. And because of that, we all knew each other very well. Pretty much every student knew everybody's first and last name. And also probably all the people in the grade above us and below us at the time too. We knew all of their names. If any of you guys go to a small school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's more of a smaller community and just everybody knows each other. Now, if you go to a big school where you have like hundreds of students, I know that you don't even know the majority, like probably 3/4 of your grade's names. Like I've talked to people who went to big schools like that, and they would say that they haven't even met most of their classmates, which is just insane to me because, like I said, I grew up in such a tiny school. Anyways, point is, everyone knew each other very well. So we had this one classmate, and for the sake of the story, we're gonna call him Jake. Now, I'm not trying to be rude or like super judgmental or whatever, but Jake was just really, really weird. For starters, he had this weird fascination with bugs, and for a period of time, people even called him the bug kid. See, during recess, he would find the weirdest bugs and be playing with them, and then after recess was over, he would bring the bugs inside and have them during class. The teachers would always get mad at him for bringing them into class, and they would tell him that he needs to get rid of it, but he would often ignore them or just pretend like he didn't hear the teacher talking to him, and often the teachers just couldn't be bothered, so they just let it go. But this dude would like pet the bugs and like whisper to them and stuff. It was really weird. One day he brought in this bug and he was playing with it, talking to it, and then all of a sudden, I guess the bug said something wrong to him because he started getting really angry and he was like shouting at this bug that he was holding. Then he like threw it on the ground and stomped on it a bunch of times, and he just seemed really, really annoyed and angry. I mean, that got him sent to detention that day, but more oftenly, his whole bug ordeal was more just like weird. There weren't many other interactions similar to that. But then some other weird things to note. Once again, I'm not being judgmental. It's just like, I gotta build this dude's character, all right? You guys just need to understand like who this person was. And anyways, at the end of the day, this dude ends up eating our class pet. So like, I think it's okay. So during lunch, he would always pack his food. And though he wouldn't sit at a lunch table all by himself, he sat at this lunch table, but all the chairs around him were empty. So he was like in his own little corner at this lunch table. But anyways, from what people seen, he ate the same thing pretty much every day from kindergarten all the way up to 9th grade. This dude had the same meal every single day practically for his whole entire life. Now though, yes, that's like a little weird. It's not that crazy, but what he would eat was a little insane. His lunch consisted of 1 sandwich. It was 2 pieces of white bread with no crust on it, and then a few slices of American cheese. So it was basically just a cold grilled cheese. So he would have that, and then also just 1 singular chicken nugget, the like frozen kind, only it was still frozen solid. After he ate his cheese sandwich, he would spend the rest of lunch just sitting there like chewing on this frozen chicken nugget. Now remember, this wasn't just a one-off thing. This was something that he did every single day at at school lunch. Like, we all grew up together. Most of us knew each other since kindergarten. Like I said, at the time of the story, we were in 9th grade, and without fail, every single day that he was at school lunch, this is what he was doing, this is what he was eating. Like, everyone in that school knew exactly what Jake ate for lunch, and they knew exactly how he ate it. Because, like I said, we all grew up with each other, and this dude was eating and doing the exact same thing at lunch every single day. So we just saw it. Anyways, there was a bunch of other tiny, weirder things that Jake would do. He'd ask the teacher some weird, unsettling questions. He would randomly ask you, like, if you knew about something extremely obscure, stuff that I honestly think he was making up. But yeah, anyways, point is, this kid was extremely odd. Now, with that, of course, I wasn't mean to the kid, and most people weren't mean to the kid. I mean, sometimes people would talk about him behind his back, but for the most part, they didn't say stuff directly to him, which was good, because that is the type of kid who would usually get bullied in school. But honestly, I just don't think you'd want to bully this kid. So that's who Jake is. Now, that's a very rough idea, of course. There's years and years of details that you guys would have to understand, but I mean, at the very least, you get the gist of things. Anyways, Jake at the time was in my science class. Now, our science class teacher was pretty cool. They weren't like super strict or anything, and they'd often let us like watch science movies and stuff for our class day. They'd let us use our textbooks for tests. Like, it was a good class, right? It wasn't one of those super stressful ones. It was an easy class. Teacher was cool, like I said. And yet one day the teacher decided that for a little activity for the whole class that they were going to get a class pet. The idea was that she could assign different students to take care of it different days, make sure that it was fed. Mind you, this class was our first class of the day, so they could make it that every morning someone had to feed the animal. Also, this was science class and we were learning about biology, so it was a good exercise to raise an animal and see its environment and stuff like that. So the teacher announced this at the end of one of our classes, and the next day we all come into class, and once class is started, our teacher shows us our new pet. She pulls the cover that she has over the tank off, and it is revealed that the class now has a pet goldfish. Now, this wasn't just a little goldfish, this was one of those big goldfish. Like, it was the size of our teacher's hand. This thing was huge. The class had a vote on what to name the fish, and the vote ended with a very original name for a fish, Fishy. So now, with Fishy the fish being in our classroom, the teacher was going to now assign people for different days to make sure it was fed, and there was a little chart that had to be followed. Now, if someone wasn't there for whatever day, the teacher would take a volunteer and have them go feed it instead. Also, if you were the fish feeder that day, your duty was to make sure that the tank was all clean and report if there were any problems, like if the filter wasn't running. Anyways, everyone in the class was given a turn, each getting their own feeding day where they got to feed the fish. One day, it was Jake's turn to feed the fish. Now, ever since the day we got the fish, Jake would spend a lot of time in class staring at it, which, I mean, some other people would watch the fish every now and then and like zone out, but Jake was pretty fixated on this fish. Like, he was staring at it. It was quite unsettling, to be honest. But yeah, it was the morning of the day that Jake was supposed to be feeding the fish and taking care of it and all of that. However, as time went on, Jake was still not there. It was getting pretty close to the first bell of the day, and like I said, Jake wasn't there yet, so the teacher asked for a volunteer to do the fish duties. Just as she was about to pick somebody, Jake walked into the classroom. But something seemed off to everybody. See, like I said, we all knew each other very well, and we can tell whenever something was wrong or like off, and everyone knew that something wasn't right. Jake had this big smirk on his face whenever usually he just have like a plain stare, but he looked like he had some sort of plan or he was like plotting something. And I was whispering to my friend sitting next to me, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, dude, this is weird. And that's whenever Jake took his seat. Now, right as he sat down, mind you, he rarely talked, he immediately stands up and goes, "Oh, it's my fish day, isn't it?" Ha 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 ha. At this point, this was like really, really weird. I mean, everyone knew that Jake was like a weird kid, but this was extremely outlandish behavior from him. Like, we haven't seen anything like it. Anyways, Jake gets up and walks over to where the fish food is. And at this point, everybody's eyes are on him. Because like I said, everybody could tell that something here was off. And at that point, Jake was like, "What's everyone looking at?" Now, if everything before wasn't weird, this was extremely weird because he would never confront people. He wasn't that type of person. But today, he just seemed to not care whatsoever. At that point, most people moved their eyes off of him and pretended as if they were never looking at him in the first place. You know, just looking around all cluelessly like, what are you talking about, Jake? But still, some people were just so intrigued that they just couldn't stop watching, me included. And now this is at the point where Jake slams down the fish food, which regains everybody's attention. And with a big smile on his face, he goes, "Well, I hope you guys all enjoy this show because it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before." He then opens up the top of the tank, grabs this gigantic goldfish out of the tank, and before anybody could could react to anything, he somehow fits the whole entire thing in his mouth and just swallows it whole. The teacher at this point sprung out of their chair and started running towards him to try to put a stop to this, but it was too late. Fishy, the goldfish, was gone. Well, honestly, he might not have been gone quite yet. He was just swimming in a different environment, an environment known as Jake's stomach. I mean, you guys could only imagine how shocked everyone in the classroom was. This was by far the craziest thing any of us had ever seen in our entire lives. I mean, not only did we just watch this guy eat our class pet, I mean, our class pet was huge. There was no way he could have just done what he did and swallow it whole like that. Craziest part is that Jake wasn't even fazed by this. After he swallowed it, he let out a big belch and he like rubbed his stomach and patted it and said that it was delicious. The teacher was in absolute disbelief, and I mean, so was the whole entire classroom, but the teacher started yelling at Jake, saying like there's no way he just did that and that he was gonna be in all kinds of trouble. And Jake at this point was just laughing, asking the class if they enjoyed the show, to which nobody was responding because like, what the hell, dude? That was like our pet, you know? Nobody thought it was cool or funny or whatever. I seriously don't know like what his motive was for this. Maybe he thought he can get some good attention on him, but I mean, if anything, this was the complete opposite of good attention. Everyone was honestly kind of mad at him and also extremely disgusted. Our teacher called the principal, who instructed her to send him to the nurse office first and then to his office. Nobody to this day knows what happened at the nurse's office. I mean, you could only imagine what she thought about that. Imagine being a school nurse where all you do is send home kids who claim that they're sick and give people who just broke their neck a pack of ice to put on their leg. Like, imagine that's your job, right? And someone walks in and they're like, I just swallowed the pet goldfish. Like, what? I think that for me would be the end of my career as a school nurse if I was one. Also, imagine being the teacher and you like do this nice thing for your class. You bring in a pet for the class and you have them take care of it. It's like a nice little activity that you have going on for the class. And then, yeah, it just gets eaten whole. Like, I couldn't even imagine, bro. I mean, even just being there and seeing him eat the class pet. I mean, it's absolutely insane stuff. It sounds like one of the things that you would see on a book from the book fair. The kid who swallowed a fish, who swallowed a fly. Like, what? Anyways, this actually ended up getting Jake expelled from the school. Not even just suspended, like straight up kicked out of the school, and he was never seen by any of us again. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was really curious, you know, like what happened with him after that day? Like, did he have to go to the hospital to get the fish removed? Did like nature take its place and like, what happened? I mean, we know that he's still alive, right? Like, he's still on Snapchat and he'll post some weird stuff sometimes and people will see it. So he survived eating this gigantic goldfish, but like, how? Like, there's no way the dude didn't just choke and die right there. He straight up ate it, swallowed it, and I guess it came out the other end. Needless to say, though, we went the rest of the school year without any other class pets. I'm guessing that was probably the end of class pets for our teacher. Hashtag RIP Fishy. Comment it below, guys. Also, if you like listening to my stories, check it out on Spotify. It's, of course, linked below. Today, I have a story for you guys about this crazy emo kid who ends up starting a fire at school that leads to him being expelled. This is one of the best stories that anyone has submitted to my Instagram yet, which, by the way, if you have any stories you want to tell, submit them to my Instagram at KeidBoy, and I may just cover your story. Before we dive in, drop a like for 69 years of good luck, and help me hit 10 subscribers or followers by subscribing or following. With that all being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. And remember, as always, the names are completely made up. This all takes place in school. So when our subscriber first met the emo kid known as Danny, they thought that he was a bit of a weirdo. He always dressed in black, had jet black hair that covered half of his face, and wore more eyeliner than anyone our subscriber had ever seen before. But as they got to know him better, they realized that perhaps he actually could be a pretty cool guy. He was into all kinds of punk and metal bands, and he had a real talent for drawing. One day, during lunch period, Danny came up to our subscriber with this mischievous grin on his face. "Hey man," he said, "you want to see something crazy?" The subscriber replied by saying, I don't know, what do you have in mind? Danny, the emo kid, says, "Follow me," and grabs our subscriber's arm and pulls him towards the exit. As they walk through the hallway, Danny started to pull out a bunch of paper and markers from his backpack. The subscriber still had no idea what he was planning, but was very intrigued by this. When they finally made it outside, Danny started to set up his makeshift art station on the sidewalk. He laid out a bunch of paper and markers and started to draw stuff. The subscriber couldn't really make out what it was supposed to be, but it looked like some sort of monster. As Danny kept drawing, a small crowd started to gather around Danny and the subscriber. Some of them were curious, while others were outright skeptical. baffled. "What the hell is this kid doing?" our subscriber heard one person say. But Danny just kept drawing. He didn't care, and he was just completely focused on his work. And then, as he put his finishing touches on his creation, he suddenly stood up and yelled, "It's alive!" Everyone around Danny and the subscriber jumped back in shock, including the subscriber themselves. They were pretty scared about what was going on. But then everyone started to laugh. It was such a ridiculous thing to say, but it was also, kind of funny. Danny started to act like his drawing was really alive, making it walk around and interact with people on the street. Some people would play along, while others just shook their heads and walked away, thinking that Danny was crazy. But then things took a turn for the even more insane. Danny suddenly grabbed a piece of paper and wrote something on it. He held it up for everyone to see, and it read, "Free hugs." Just imagine the person that our subscriber detailed at the start of the story. All black clothes, black hair, covering up their face, eyeliner, and they're holding up a sign that says "Free hugs." Drop a comment and let me know if you personally would go up and give this emo kid a hug. Anyways, at first, nobody really wanted to go near Danny, but then one brave soul finally stepped forward and actually gave Danny a hug. And then another person stepped up, and another. Soon enough, there was a huge line of people waiting to hug Danny and his monster that he drew. This is when a group of teachers and administrators from the school came over to see what all this commotion was about, what the crowd of people outside and a line of kids was for. At first, they looked completely baffled, but then they started to smile and even take pictures with Danny and his drawing. The next day, Danny was the talk of the school. He was the cool dude. Oh yeah. People couldn't stop talking about his crazy stunt, and some were even calling him a hero. But Danny wasn't content to rest on his laurels. He was already planning his next big project. A few days later, our subscriber received a mysterious text from Danny. It said, "Meet me outside the school at midnight. I have something to show you." Now, of course, our subscriber was very hesitant at first. I mean, meeting somebody at midnight at a school is kind of strange, but their curiosity got the best of them. So at midnight, they found themselves standing outside the school with Danny. The subscriber asks, "What's going on?" To which Danny replies with a big grin on his face, "You'll see." Suddenly, a car pulled up and a bunch of people got out. They were all wearing black and some had their faces covered with bandanas. The subscriber was starting to get scared and asked, "What the hell is going on here?" That's when Danny said, "We're gonna do something big, something that will change this school forever." And with that, he led the way. Our subscriber once again hesitated for a moment, wondering if they should actually follow them or run in the other direction and get the hell out of there. But then they remembered how much fun they had with Danny during their last adventure, and they decided to actually go along for the ride. They walked for what seemed like hours until eventually they reached an abandoned building on the outskirts of town. Danny and the others started to paint something on the side of the building, but I couldn't make out what it was supposed to be. As they worked, our subscribers started to feel uneasy. They had this feeling that whatever they were doing wasn't exactly legal. But before they could say anything, the group finished their work and stood back to admire it. And that's when our subscriber finally saw it. They had painted a giant mural of a demon on the side of the building. It was incredibly detailed with sharp teeth and glowing eyes that our subscriber says seemed to follow you wherever you went. The subscriber felt a chill run down their spine as they looked at this art. It was impressive, but also kind of terrifying. Danny and his friends seemed pleased with their work though. They high-fived each other and grinned at the subscriber. "What do you think?" Danny asked, to which the subscriber replied, "It's really cool," trying their best to sound enthusiastic. Then the group of kids heard sirens in the distance. Someone must have called the cops on them. Danny and his friends quickly packed up their supplies and started to run, but our subscriber, they froze in place. They didn't know what to do. "Come on, man," Danny yelled, grabbing our subscriber's arm and pulling him along. "We have to go." The subscriber stumbled along behind them, feeling like that they were in some sort of crazy dream. They all finally made it back to the school, where they hid behind a dumpster until the cops passed by. Our subscriber was shaking with adrenaline and fear, but Danny and his friends were laughing and high-fiving each other. "That was awesome," one of them exclaimed. But our subscriber knew that it was anything but awesome. They had broken the law, and they could have gotten in some serious trouble. Over the next few weeks, Danny and his friends continued to pull off crazy stunts around the school. They spray painted graffiti on the lockers, started food fights in the cafeteria, and even set off a bunch of smoke bombs in the gym. The subscribers started to distance themselves from Danny, not wanting to get caught up in his antics, but they just couldn't help to feel a little bit jealous of his carefree attitude. Danny didn't seem to care about the consequences of his action, and that was kind of liberating. But then something happened that changed everything. During one of their stunts, Danny and his friends accidentally set a fire in the science lab. It was a small fire, but it could have easily turned into something much worse. From the rumors that our subscriber had heard, Danny and his friends were experimenting with a bunch of different chemicals and just mixing random stuff together. And I guess some of the chemicals that they combined ended up reacting with each other, and it caused a flame. And then that flame grew and got worse, but luckily the science teacher was just on their way back to their classroom, and they had noticed the smoke coming from out of their door. And if you didn't know, most science labs have a way to put out fires, because obviously that is a big risk with having a science lab and working with chemicals and stuff like that. So of course they had a fire extinguisher nearby, and the teacher put it out. Luckily nobody was hurt, and the fire got to be put out before the flames were able to spread. But the school was in an uproar after this. The principal called an emergency assembly and scolded the students for their reckless behavior. Danny and his friends were expelled from the school, and the rest of everybody were left to deal with the aftermath of their actions. Our subscriber mentions that this was a big wake-up call for them. They realized that there was a fine line between having fun and being dangerous. As for Danny though, our subscriber has never seen them again after that. Rumor has it that he moved away with his family, but truly nobody knows where he went. Today I have a story for you guys about the most spoiled kid ever. This kid is extremely entitled, spoiled, and arrogant, and at one point he even cries because he was gifted a Lamborghini. I already know you guys are going to love this story. Leave a like right now for some free air. That's right, free. And also subscribe or follow so we can hit 10 followers or subscribers. That is my dream. Anyways, this story comes from one of my subscribers on Instagram. If you want me to cover your story, head on over to @KeidBoy on Instagram. Drop me a follow and then DM me any story that you might want to tell. And if I find it interesting, I might just cover it. Anyways, on to the story about this super spoiled kid. And remember, as always, for privacy reasons, the names are made up. So our subscriber attended a very prestigious private school. It was one of those really expensive schools that parents would pay a lot of money to put their kids through. So of course, going to school at a very expensive private school, you're gonna meet a lot of spoiled kids. I mean, chances are if you're going to this kind of private school, you yourself are probably at least a little bit spoiled. I mean, just going to a private school alone makes you spoiled a little bit at least. Anyways, our subscriber says that they've encountered all types of characters at this school, but none of them are as unbearable as Jackson. Jackson could be described as the epitome of spoiled and arrogant. He's the kid that everyone loves to hate. The first time our subscriber met Jackson, it was the first day of 5th grade, and Jackson walked into the classroom with a shiny new iPhone, the latest model at the time. Gotta say, I will never understand giving a 10 or an 11-year-old a smartphone. Like, that is the last thing that they need. Giving a 10-year-old instant access to the internet at any time to go see and look at whatever they want, talk to whoever they want, like, that's just not a good idea. Anyways, I'm not the kid's parent, so whatever, they gave him the newest model of iPhones. Now, what I find interesting is that our subscriber says that the rest of everybody in the class still was using flip phones or outdated smartphones, which I guess would make sense because, I mean, if you're 10, you're gonna get a hand-me-down, or you're just gonna get a phone that just does calling, maybe texting. I remember whenever I was a kid, my first phone I got whenever I was in 5th or 6th grade, so I was probably like 11 or 12 years old. And the phone was just this tiny little screen with like 12 buttons on it. I can dial a phone number or like navigate a menu to go to my contacts and then call somebody that I had saved. And to type in letters, you had to click 1 to 3 times on the digits 1 through 9 on the keypad. For example, the number 1 on the keypad had A, B, and C, and if you clicked once on it, it would type in A. If you double clicked it, it would do B, and if you triple clicked it, it would do C. And that's how you would have to text people or type in somebody's name to set them up as a contact. And then on top of all of that, I was only given a certain amount of minutes I could talk to people. So if I was doing a lot of calling, I'd be like in the middle of the call, and then all of a sudden the call would just drop and I couldn't call any of my friends until next month whenever I got more minutes. But yeah, that was my first phone experience. I'm sure whenever they say that these kids have flip phones or outdated smartphones, it's not nearly as bad as that. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, thought I'd share it. Anyways, of course, Jackson didn't have one of these crappy phones. He had the epic new iPhone. Oh, and not only did he have the new iPhone, he also was wearing a designer designer backpack and some new clothes. Once again, that is another thing I just will never, ever understand. Buying kids designer clothes. You know, I get it. You might want your kid to like stand out in school so he doesn't get bullied and stuff like that, and he can be the top of the class, whatever, the popular kid. But I mean, I know this is a crazy thought. Kids grow. Yeah, that's right. They grow. They get taller and they grow out of clothes very quickly. Like, I'm sorry, even if I'm a billionaire and I'm racking in some serious money, my kid is not wearing designer. Honestly, I wouldn't buy him designer at all. I don't think I would even let him buy designer himself until the doctor says, you know, he's fully grown. Because otherwise, that's just a complete waste of money. And sure, maybe you could resell it, but I mean, still, you're going to be losing money on that for no reason. You can still look good with average clothes, right? Like maybe get some clothes on the higher end, look fresh, whatever. You don't need that hype beast designer crap though. Anyways, as our subscriber said, Jackson just had all this stuff and he was acting as if he owned that place. And that's when they knew that Jackson was going to be trouble. Our subscriber then talks about how when the years went by, Jackson's behavior just only got worse and worse, and he was getting more and more spoiled, and they could tell. He would brag about the expensive trips his family went on and show off the latest gadgets he had, which if you guys remember, these kids all go to an expensive private school, and I'm sure that they all go on vacations and stuff like that. And our subscriber talks about how Jackson would always talk about how much money he spent on his trip. So, you know, he's trying to like flex on these kids just because his parents buy him new things and take him on super nice vacations that cost a little bit more money than the vacations that they go on. And it's like such a reach to try and flex on them because, like I said, these kids have money. Their parents are also wealthy. They're able to send them to this really nice private school. So he isn't that far ahead of the game. It's not that crazy. There's not much to flex, which I mean, good thing he's in this private school. Otherwise, he would absolutely toast the kids who eat Lunchables for dinner, which by the way, I'm definitely one of those kids. Lunchables were absolutely fire. Now, this kid wasn't just spoiled. He was also just absolutely arrogant and rude. If there was a long line at lunch, yeah, Jackson was not waiting in that line. He would just jump right in front of everybody, wouldn't even say, excuse me, sorry, or anything like that, or even try to make up an excuse to skip. He would just go right up there and skip the line. And since his parents were so rich, the teachers wouldn't say anything to him, and he would just get away with it. The subscriber talked about also this one time, it was the first day of school, and the kids were choosing their seats. There was a seat right next to an outlet, which if you didn't know, outlet seats are like the prime seats in school. Those are the ones to get, because obviously you can charge all your stuff with the outlet. Then also everyone starts asking you to charge their stuff, so that gets kind of annoying. But I mean, the benefits outweigh the cons, right? Anyways, what had happened was there were only 2 outlet seats in the classroom, and both of them were taken. The teacher was doing first come, first serve for the seats, so it was just whoever showed up earlier that day got to pick their seat. And Jackson showed up pretty late, so he would have to find a different seat. Only he wasn't going to find a different seat, and rather he went up to the teacher, whispered something in her ear, and then wouldn't you know it, the teacher came over and demanded that the student move. He probably said something like, "My parents own you, get him to move the seat or else." And she listened, because also this kid's parents were probably just as bad as him. I mean, it just shows. Look at him himself. Yeah, it just really frustrated our subscriber to see how Jackson just got away with everything and got literally everything he wanted. Things only get worse though. There was an incident that happened in 8th grade. So it was Jackson's 12th birthday party, and Jackson was known for throwing some of the craziest birthday parties ever. Everyone would get invited to them, and they were seriously insane. One year he had a whole petting zoo. The other year they rented out a whole amusement park. I mean, just imagine your best ever birthday you had growing up as a kid. Multiply that by like 10,000. Then also take the fact that you're arrogant and your parents are super arrogant and entitled and all of this stuff. You know, it's obviously not actually better than your best birthday, but let's just say the level of his birthday parties were way above the level that ours probably were. Anyways, on his 12th birthday, his parents decided to buy him a present, a big present. They seriously went all out for some reason. I don't know what's special about the year 12, but as our subscriber says, the parents seriously went all out. Right after they sang happy birthday, and he blew out the candles on this huge cake. It was like one of those cakes that you would see on the show Cake Boss, only it was sculpted into a dragon. So I mean, there's that. But I mean, that's nothing compared to the car that came driving around the corner right as he blew out the candles with a bow on it. Yep, that's right. This kid got a car for his 12th birthday present. A car. What? I mean, the kid can't even drive the car for another 4 years. But I mean, you know what? Whatever. They gave him some crappy car so he can look forward to driving a car for the next 4 years. And he can know for certain that he will, in fact, be able to drive in the future. Yeah, so it's just a crappy car, right? Just a crappy car, nothing special. Wrong. This was quite the opposite of a crappy car. I would say it is a crappy car to give to a 12-year-old or anybody who is new to driving. But yeah, they gifted him a brand new Lamborghini. I want to know who his parents are because, like, what is going on here? Lamborghinis are one of the most expensive cars on the market, and Jackson was, needless to say, thrilled at first, but only for a second. His excitement quickly turned to tears as he realized that this Lamborghini had a serious problem. Jackson complained that the color was all wrong and that he wanted a different one. You see, his parents bought him a light blue colored Lamborghini. Jackson wanted a dark blue Lamborghini. Honestly, screw those parents. How dare they mess up his color? Disgusting. Honestly, how dare they buy this 12-year-old kid a Lamborghini for his 12th birthday? Like, what? I'd be extremely frustrated at the fact that he's getting a car, just any car, even if it was like a $500 car for his birthday. I would be pretty frustrated at that fact. I might be able to somewhat create an understanding, but not really. But a Lamborghini? Like, I get that they're super rich. I understand that they have all the money in the world, I guess. But what is he meant to do with this car for the next 4 years? Look at it? Just like go and sit inside of the car, take Snapchats? Probably exactly what he used it for, by the way. And yeah, this kid was just bawling his eyes out. The parents were just in absolute shock. However, they did try to calm down Jackson by telling him that they can trade it in for a different color. They'll get him whatever color he wants. And yeah, Jackson started to lighten up a little bit, but as our subscriber says, he still seemed to be very mad at his parents during the rest of that birthday party. Anyways, even after this Lamborghini incident, nothing really seemed to change. I think somebody can only be so entitled, so spoiled, so arrogant. But with Jackson, there's seriously no limit. He just kept right up with the behavior. Even as he got older, he would still scold his classmates and try to flex on them, and still demanded special treatment from teachers, which he would always get. Which makes it hard for me to believe that this kid even had a social circle like they were saying earlier. Like, no way this kid has friends while acting this arrogant and rich, right? Well, wrong, probably, because let's face it, there's definitely some people out there who are going to be friends with him just because he has this crazy amount of money and they know that they can go and do whatever. So I guess rather he doesn't have any real friends. They're all just fake friends who are there for money, most likely. Even then, though, I don't know how somebody could even be a fake friend with him. This kid seems insane. Anyways, our subscriber moves on to say that during a school trip, Jackson actually ended up having a meltdown because he couldn't use his phone. So at the start of the field trip, the teachers took all the phones because they were doing this wilderness hiking thing, and Jackson just wasn't having it. He started screaming and demanding that the teachers allow him to use his phone at once, but they refused. He ended up just complaining the whole entire time and threatening the teachers, saying that my parents will get you fired in a second if you don't give me my phone, and you know, like stuff like that. And it really just made everybody's experience for this field trip miserable. This dude just can't go a millisecond without having all of the eyes on him, whether it be eyes that are annoyed or eyes that are actually interested. He just didn't care. He just wanted all the attention in the world, and of course he was going to get it because, well, Jackson gets whatever he wants. Anyways, as of now, our subscriber says that it's been a few years since the last time they actually saw Jackson, but they heard through the grapevine that he's still the same spoiled kid that he always has been. Only he's in college now, and supposedly his parents have given him his own apartment and credit card, and he is actually now driving the Lamborghini that he got on his 12th birthday. But now it's not a sky blue Lamborghini, it is actually a dark blue Lamborghini. It's pretty clear that he's never had to face any consequences for his behavior, and it's unlikely that he ever will, to be honest. And that's just the sad reality of this world. For some people, everything just goes their way, and for some people, nothing goes their way. Jackson is a prime example of what happens when parents spoil their children and refuse to acknowledge their faults. His entitlement and arrogance will most likely continue to follow him through life, and it really is a shame that he's never had the chance to learn from his mistakes. Our subscriber can only hope that one day he'll realize the error of his ways, but until then, he'll remain the most spoiled kid in the world. Today, I have a story for you guys about these kids who genuinely believe the backrooms are real, and they actually end up trying to find the backrooms. It's a really crazy story that was submitted to me on Instagram. If you guys have any stories you want me to cover, make sure you just send me a DM at KeidBoy on Instagram, and I might just cover it, like the video or podcast that you're listening to right now, for some free air. Oh yeah, that's right, free. Also, subscribe or follow right now so we can hit 10 subs or followers. Thank you. And with that all being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. And as always, all of the names in the story and teachers' names are made up, so don't think you can go try to find these people in real life or something like that. It's just not gonna happen. So it all started in who we're gonna call Mr. Johnson's class. This is where my subscriber noticed a group of classmates constantly talking about something called the backrooms. They were always discussing their made-up experience in this alternate dimension, describing the bizarre creatures and sights that they claimed to have encountered. At first, the subscriber was intrigued by their stories, but it quickly became clear that they had become obsessed with the backrooms. They couldn't stop talking about it and would spend hours during recess and lunch discussing it. It was like they had completely lost touch with reality. One day, during art class, the subscriber overheard one of the backroom kids telling their friends about a particularly intense trip they had taken to the backrooms the night before. They were describing a giant monster that had chased them through the maze-like corridors and how they had barely escaped with their lives. The subscriber couldn't help but roll their eyes at these obvious lies. I mean, who in their right mind would believe in a place like the backrooms, like genuinely believe in it? Despite their skepticism, the backroom kids weren't deterred. They kept talking about the backrooms and even started bringing in props like flashlights and compasses to school to make it seem more legit. They would draw pictures and write stories about their adventures, and it was like they were trying to create some sort of elaborate mythology around this imaginary world. Our subscriber found it pretty amusing to watch them go on and on about the backrooms at first, but it quickly became annoying to them. These kids were skipping homework and skipping class and stuff just to work on their backroom related projects. The teachers were getting mad at them, they were getting bad grades. Like when our subscriber says that they were obsessed, it really truly seems that they were obsessed. Eventually though, things got really out of hand when the backroom kids decided to try and take a field trip to the backrooms. They brought in a bunch of cardboard boxes to class and arranged them in this maze-like pattern all in the back of the classroom. Then they invited everyone in the class to come and explore the backrooms with them. Our subscriber couldn't help but laugh at this whenever she saw what they had done. It was so ridiculous that it was actually kind of funny to them. But the backroom kids were dead serious about this. They had flashlights and compasses and maps, and they were ready to embark on their great adventure. Of course, nobody in the class took them up on their offer. It was just too weird and cringy, even for middle schoolers. But these kids didn't care. They kept on talking about the backrooms. They kept saying how they explore them. And if you mentioned to these kids that the backrooms were fake, they would get so mad. Anyways, one day, our subscriber decided to confront these kids about the whole entire situation with the backrooms. They asked if they really believed in the backrooms or if it was just a joke. They looked at the subscriber like they were crazy and said that of course the backrooms were real. Then showed the subscriber a video on YouTube that they claimed was proof of their existence. Our subscriber says that the video was so bad it was actually hilarious. She says it looked like it was filmed on a potato and the creature they claimed to have seen looked like it was made out of paper mache. They truly couldn't believe that they were actually taking this seriously. Despite our subscribers' attempts to reason with them, the backroom kids were still convinced that the backrooms were 100% real and legit. It was like they were living in a fantasy world that nobody else could access. I just gotta say, this is somewhat reminding me of the Slenderman girls. If you didn't know, there were these two girls who actually truly believed that Slenderman was real, and they were completely 100% convinced that they needed to make a a sacrifice to Slenderman. So they ended up luring one of their friends into the woods, and they actually had a pointy object, and yeah, can't say what they actually did, but you can put 2 and 2 together. I think they both ended up in a mental institute. But yeah, crazy stuff, and I see the parallels between them and the backroom kids. I'm not saying that these kids are going to go and lure someone into the woods and use a pointy object, but I mean, similar level of weirdness. Anyways, one day during our subscriber science class, they were supposed to be learning about the periodic table, but the backroom kids were too busy talking about their latest adventures in the back room. Our subscriber couldn't help but be a little bit curious about the story that they were telling, so they took out their journal and wrote down what one of the kids said. It's probably not 100% accurate, but here we have it. The kid said, "So the first time I went to the back rooms, I was just wandering around in this abandoned building, and I found this door that looked like it was from a different dimension. It was like all glitched out and flickering, you know?" Everyone in the classroom nodded, pretending like they understood and agreed with him. The kid then continued on to say, "I opened the door and suddenly I was in this endless maze of yellow concrete rooms. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights was so loud, it was like it was inside of my head, and there were these weird, unexplainable entities that would occasionally appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly." Another one of the backroom kids chimed in saying, "The first time I went, I found myself in a dark red room that was almost completely empty, except for this old wooden chair in the center. I sat down in the chair and suddenly I was transported to another part of the backrooms. It was like I was being controlled by some sort of higher power." Our subscriber at this point couldn't help but roll their eyes. I mean, the stories were so far-fetched, it was comical, but they didn't want to ruin their fun, so they just decided to listen and nod along. Kid continued on to say, "The scariest part about the backrooms is that you never know when you're going to wake up. Sometimes I'll be walking around and suddenly I'll snap out of it and realize that I was just dreaming about the backrooms. It's like it's following me when I'm awake." After that, our subscriber couldn't hold it in anymore, and they decided to mess around with the kids a little bit. They said, "Hey, have you guys heard of the YouTuber who claims to have visited the backrooms?" And they continued on to say, "His name is Jake Paul, and he says he found a secret entrance in his house." To our subscriber's surprise, the backroom kids looked at them in awe, like they had just revealed some sort of secret knowledge. "No way," one of them said. "We have to watch that video after class." The subscriber couldn't help but chuckle to themselves as they eagerly pulled out their phones and started searching for the video. Of course, there was no such video, but the subscriber thought it was pretty fun to see them all fall for the joke. As the school year went on, the backroom kids slowly started to lose interest in the backrooms. They moved on to other obsessions like Fortnite and TikTok dances. I think I'd prefer if they just stuck with the backrooms, to be honest, because Jesus. But as our subscriber looks back, they think it was kind of funny to think about how obsessed these kids were with something that was completely made up. But at the same time, our subscriber found it a little bit sad. It was like they were trying to escape from their boring, mundane lives by creating this elaborate fantasy world. Our subscriber goes on to say, you know, we all have our own ways of coping with reality, but for these kids, they decided to cope with the backrooms. In the end, our subscriber says that they learned that it's important to have a little bit of an imagination, but it's also important to stay grounded in reality. The backroom kids may have been living in a fantasy world, but at least they were having fun, and who knows, maybe one day they'll look back on their backroom adventures and laugh about how ridiculous it all was. Today, I have a story for you guys about this kid who actually thinks that Minecraft is real, and he ends up doing this weird ritual where he tries to summon some of the mobs from Minecraft. It's a really interesting story, to say the least. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, so make sure you guys stay tuned. I do have an amazing offer for you guys right now, though. If you leave a like, you're going to get free air. Yep, that's right, I said it, free. And also, while you're at it, subscribe or leave a follow depending on where you're listening, which, by the way, if you didn't know, all these episodes are uploaded on Spotify and anywhere where podcasts are available. So if you want to listen to these stories on the go, just click the link either down below in the description or in the comments. With that all being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So one of my subscribers sent in this story, and it's about this kid who we're gonna call Alex. So our subscriber went to school with Alex, and if you knew one thing about Alex, it was gonna be the fact that he was a huge fan of Minecraft. What was strange though was the fact that Alex would often talk about Minecraft as if it were a real place. He would talk about the game's creatures like creepers and zombies as if they existed in the real world. world. For instance, he would say things like, "I saw a creeper the other day," or "I have to watch out for zombies on my way home." He would also describe crafting recipes and items from the game as if they could be made in real life. The subscriber said that there was one instance where he said things like, "I'm gonna go make a diamond sword like in Minecraft, be right back," or "I need some redstone to build a trap." He would just say stuff like this randomly during school. To Alex, Minecraft wasn't just a game, it was a reality that he was completely immersed in. So Alex, truly believing that Minecraft is real, one day during lunchtime decided to perform a Minecraft ritual that he said was going to summon a creeper. A subscriber says that he brought a box of matches and a bag of sugar to school, truly believing that they were the key ingredients for the ritual. He then proceeded to sprinkle sugar around the playground in a circle and light matches around it. Mind you, this was during middle school, so I do not know where a middle schooler is getting matches from, nor how he's getting away lighting matches during recess, but supposedly he did this. Anyways, after lighting some matches and sprinkling some sugar, he started to chant, and he was chanting in what our subscriber could only guess was enchantment table language, because literally nothing he was saying made sense and it sounded extremely obscure. Anyways, as he continued to chant, some of his friends started to watch him in amusement, while others rolled their eyes at him and walked away. Suddenly though, there was a loud buzzing noise. Alex didn't care though, and he just continued to keep on chanting and chanting away. However, our subscriber, who said that they were watching quite closely, started to back up a little bit. Pretty soon though, their backing up would turn to sprinting away, because the buzzing started getting louder and louder, and soon enough, a swarm of angry bees was attacking Alex. Alex's ritual had attracted a beehive nearby. I'm guessing it was probably because of all the sugar he sprinkled around the playground, because as you guys know, bees love sugar, and Alex put so much sugar all over the place that the bees had no reason not to go over there, and he was probably in the way of the bees getting to the sugar. So what did the bees do? They started to swarm Alex, stinging him repeatedly. Most people ran away, including the subscriber, but our subscriber said that a few of his friends stuck around and tried to help, but soon enough they would run away too, as they were most likely also getting stung. The subscriber kept watching through the window, and eventually one of the teachers came to Alex's rescue. They grabbed a fire extinguisher and set it off on the bees, and the bees actually finally dispersed. Alex was rushed to the school nurse's office, where he was treated for multiple bee stings. Alex never returned to class though, and that's because, due to the amount of bee stings, he ended up having to go to the hospital to get checked out, but fortunately, he ended up being okay in the end. You would think Alex would have been pretty embarrassed about this whole situation. However, as our subscriber says, he was more mad at the fact that the ritual didn't work. And he kept talking about what he did wrong and how he knew he can get this ritual to work eventually. One day, Alex decided to bring a pickaxe to school. It was a smaller pickaxe, small enough to fit inside of his backpack, but it was still very real, made out of solid metal and everything. Alex was going to try once again to summon a creeper doing some weird ritual. He brought the pickaxe to try and gather resources during recess. A subscriber said that Alex was going around the playground and digging holes. When they went up to him and asked what he was doing, he said that he was looking for the right resources to summon a creeper. He was so focused on his mission though that he just went right back to digging. However, being that focus made him not even realize that a teacher had approached him. She yelled at Alex and asked him what on earth he thought he was doing. That's whenever Alex tried to explain that he was just playing Minecraft. But the teacher was concerned about the pickaxe and the potential danger it posed, which, I mean, yeah, no crap. I don't think it would ever be a good idea to bring a metal pickaxe to school. Obviously, no schools at all, but especially a middle school. That's absolutely wild. She sent Alex to the principal office, and he got in trouble for bringing this pickaxe to school because it could be dangerous. He ended up getting suspended for 3 days. I could only imagine how mad his parents must have been, and honestly, probably embarrassed. I mean, the school must have been looking at the parents as if they were crazy, because how could their kid have possibly brought a pickaxe to school under their supervision? Anyways, that's probably what they were thinking. Just after a few days though, Alex's suspension was over and he ended up returning to school. It was obvious from the get-go that Alex was not too happy. Our subscriber could tell he was feeling down and probably embarrassed about what happened. He was trying to keep a low profile and was trying to avoid drawing attention to himself. But the teacher, Mrs. Johnson, actually noticed how sad he seemed. You see, Mrs. Johnson had always been very supportive of Alex's love for Minecraft. Even if she didn't understand it herself, she knew that he was a good kid who had made a mistake, and she wanted to do something to cheer him up. One day after class, Mrs. Johnson asked Alex, and for Alex to choose one of his friends, to stay after class. Now, this was pretty confusing to him. He most likely thought he was going to get in trouble again. However, Mrs. Johnson didn't seem to be mad and rather seemed to be happy about this. Our subscriber says that Alex didn't really have too many friends in the class that they were in. They still don't really understand why he picked them, but Alex actually chose our subscriber as the person to stay after with him. So after class, the teacher told Alex that she had a surprise for him. She led him and our subscriber over to a classroom that had been decorated with Minecraft-themed balloons and posters. Mrs. Johnson had set up a table with Minecraft-themed snacks and drinks, such as some creeper-shaped cookies and blue Gatorade. She had also brought in her own computer and had Minecraft running on it. She said to Alex, "Alex, I know you're upset about what happened, but I want you to know that we're here to support you." That's when some other teachers and the principal revealed themselves to be there as well. He continued on to say, "We're gonna have a Minecraft party to cheer you up." Needless to say, Alex couldn't believe it. Our subscriber said that he seemed very, very happy about Mrs. Johnson's kindness, and he started to cry a little bit. This time though, it wasn't tears of sadness, it was tears of happiness. He sat down at the computer and started playing some Minecraft, forgetting about his troubles for a little while. Mrs. Johnson also had another surprise for Alex though. She had prepared a special creeper summoning activity. Our subscriber says that she set up a green bloom behind a cardboard box with the creeper's face drawn on it to create the illusion of a creeper appearing. Mrs. Johnson had Alex do this summoning, and he started to talk an enchantment table once again. Our subscriber could tell though that Alex was super happy whenever it actually worked. The party lasted for around 45 minutes, but it was enough to boost Alex's spirits. Our subscriber could tell that Alex was very grateful and happy about this, and our subscriber was happy to know that they had such a supportive teacher. From then on, Alex was more careful about what he brought into school, and our subscriber could tell that he felt more comfortable when talking to Mrs. Johnson about things like Minecraft, because he now knew that she was supportive and understanding. And then also at first, a lot of people were gossiping about Alex and everything that had happened, but the teacher made sure to talk to any of the students who were making fun of him and make sure that they stopped. Eventually, the gossiping and rumors started to fade, and people became more understanding. As our subscriber has heard from other students, Alex learned a valuable lesson from his suspension and became more aware of the boundaries between Minecraft and reality. He still loved playing the game, but he realized the potential dangers of trying to bring it into the real world. There were a few other kids who also loved playing Minecraft and actually became good friends with Alex. He even talked to Mrs. Johnson about starting a Minecraft club, and Mrs. Johnson actually followed through and started the club. In the club, Alex and other students would get to stay after school and play some Minecraft and get to discuss it with each other. From what our subscriber had heard, Alex would often lead in the club, show people how to play and beat Minecraft. He would guide the kids who didn't really know what they were doing. Overall, our subscriber thinks that the incident with the creeper summoning ritual was a learning experience for Alex, and he was able to grow and mature from it. He of course continued to play Minecraft and enjoy the game, but he did so in a way that was safe and responsible. Our subscriber then explains how for the students who knew the true story, that it was a reminder to them that sometimes the things that they love can get them into trouble, but with the right guidance and support, they can learn and grow from their mistakes. And that's exactly what Alex did. He took a bad thing and turned it to a good thing. Of course, it wouldn't have been possible without the support of his teacher, Mrs. Johnson, however. Anyways, let me know in the comments if you guys would have been friends with Alex. Would you have supported somebody who thought something as crazy as Minecraft is real? I mean, at the end of the day, Alex just had a big imagination, and he wasn't afraid to show it. And there's nothing really wrong with that, other than the fact that he brought a pickaxe to school. But I mean, he was only a middle schooler, so he probably wasn't thinking about how it was dangerous and more, how can I get the materials to get this creeper here? Now, what he had to have known was dangerous was summoning a creeper. So I don't know what plans he had in store for after he had summoned the creeper, but I'm sure he had no ill intentions. Today, I have a story for you guys about one of my subscribers who claims to have met Mr. Beast. They talk about how they got to compete in a Mr. Beast challenge, and they go into details about what it's like behind the scenes. And they also claim that Mr. Beast was mean to them. I don't know how true that is, but we'll soon know once we read the story. Leave a like for the ability to blink. Yeah, that's right, I'm talking about your eyelids. You'll be able to close them and open them. It's really cool, trust me, you definitely want to try it out. And while you're at it, also subscribe or follow depending on where you're listening, which by the way, if you guys didn't know, all of these story times are available to listen anywhere where podcasts are available. You could either look up KeidStories or click the link in the description or in the pinned comment. Anyways, with that all being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So our subscriber starts off by saying that they were strolling around a Walmart. At the time, they were just looking for some snacks to take home so they can go and binge the new season of Outer Banks. As they were looking for snacks though, they say that they stumbled upon a group of people gathered around in the snack aisle. At first, they thought it was just some promotional event for a new snack coming out or something like that, but as they got closer, they realized who it was. It was none other than Mr. Beast himself. Our subscriber says that they truly couldn't believe their guys, they really didn't believe it. At first, they thought it was just a doppelganger or maybe Mr. Beast from Ohio. But once they also saw Chris and Chandler there, they realized that the chances of a doppelganger of Mr. Beast, Chris, and Chandler all in the same place at a Walmart were pretty low. And yeah, they knew right then and there that that was in fact Mr. Beast. They were super excited because, as they say, they were a huge fan of Mr. Beast's YouTube videos. And there he was in the flesh right in front of them. Now, as our subscriber says, there was a huge crowd around Mr. Beast, like literally tons of people, which, by the way, I just gotta say, it must suck to not be able to go out in public without attracting a crowd. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that Jimmy appreciates his fans, but since he's so popular, more specifically so popular for giving away tons of money to random people, nobody who knows who he is in public is gonna see him as a normal person. He's gonna attract large crowds of people, mostly kids, who think that they're gonna get some free money or a free PlayStation or something from Mr. Beast. And I'm sure that that was what was happening here. Anyways though, our subscriber didn't really care about getting free money or anything. I mean, they said that if the offer came up, of course they would take it, and they may or may not end up taking an offer for some free money from Mr. Beast later in the story, but at the end of the day, they just wanted to try and get a picture with Mr. Beast, mainly because they thought that none of their friends were going to believe that they actually saw him, so they needed some photographic proof. And what better photographic proof than a selfie with Mr. Beast himself? So our subscriber made their way into this small crowd and scooted their way up to the front. Mr. Beast was being very nice and friendly and taking pictures with all of the people there. After each picture, he was kindly asking them to move away so the rest of the kids could get a picture as well. Finally, whenever it was our subscriber's turn, they say that Mr. Beast asked what their name was. Our subscriber told him their name and said that they were his #1 fan. And that's whenever Mr. Beast asked what our subscriber's favorite video from him was. Our subscriber told him that it was the video where he eats the world's most expensive pizza. And Mr. Beast asked him why he liked that video so much, to which the kid replied that he loved pizza. And then as the kid explains, Mr. Beast was all like, I also love pizza. And then they chatted a bit about their mutual love for pizza. Our subscriber was honestly really impressed with how down to earth Jimmy seemed, because even though he had a huge following and this crowd of kids waiting to take a picture, he still took the time to not only take a picture with our subscriber, but also chat with him for a bit. But this is where our subscriber says that things took a turn for the worse. Our subscriber claims that Mr. Beast started to really get full of himself, acting like he was better than everyone else. Now, of course, they're gonna share more details, but immediately I'm gonna just take a guess and say that Mr. Beast maybe ran out of time and wasn't able to take any more pictures or something like that and needed to get out of the store, so he probably just started ignoring people and tried to leave, which, I mean, if you're as famous as Mr. Beast, that's just something that you gotta do. But as of right now, I'm only guessing. I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm just giving Mr. Beast the benefit of the doubt. I mean, we do gotta take everything this kid is saying with a grain of salt, because I don't really know how likely it is that he even actually met Mr. Beast in the first place, and whether or not that's true, let alone the rest of the details of the story, including Mr. Beast being supposedly mean. Anyways though, our subscriber goes on to say that Mr. Beast took off his hoodie to reveal a shirt he was wearing that said, quote unquote, I'm the best. I mean, that just sounds ridiculous, but maybe it's a part of a video or something. I don't know, man. Let's continue on in the story though. Our subscriber says that this is whenever he started promoting his new product Feastables to the crowd. He grabbed a Hershey bar off the shelf, opened it up, and broke it in half, then threw it on the ground. And then he told all of these kids in the crowd who were there trying to get a picture with him that Feastables were better and that they were the best chocolate bars ever made and that all of these kids had to try them. This is when our subscriber says that Mr. Beast asked for one volunteer from the crowd to do a challenge. Now, of course, all the kids were all excited. Everyone was raising their hands saying, pick me, and basically everyone in that crowd wanted to be a part of this challenge. Even most, if not all of the parents were also raising their hand and shouting at Mr. Beast. Our subscriber too was trying to get picked, and coincidentally enough, they got picked to do the challenge. And now this story is getting more and more difficult to believe. I mean, it's already hard to believe that he even met Mr. Beast in the first place, and then they're saying that he was mean, wearing a shirt that says, quote unquote, I'm the best, which already sounds absolutely absurd. And then they said that they were picked to compete in a Mr. Beast challenge. That was 1, 2, 3 strikes of fishy details. Anyways, regardless if this is true or not, I'm still pretty invested in this story and I want to know where they take it. Our subscriber claims that Mr. Beast handed him a whole entire brand new box full of Feastables. And then Mr. Beast supposedly said, to prove that you are a true fan, eat this whole entire box of Feastable chocolate bars. Guys, just Just imagine that this story is real. Mr. Beast forcing a kid to eat a whole entire box of Feastable chocolate bars. Yeah, okay. Anyways, our subscriber says that they were, of course, up for the challenge, and they took the box of Feastables and started munching away on them. But our subscriber claims that the chocolate bars were awful. He said that they tasted like cardboard and that the texture was all wrong, claiming that they could barely choke down one bar, let alone a whole entire box of them. Our subscriber says that as Mr. Beast watched them struggle to even eat one chocolate bar, he just sat there laughing at their pathetic attempt. Our subscriber then claims that Mr. Beast even made fun of him for not being able to finish the chocolate bars. Like, okay, dude, whatever you say, I'm sure this is all true. I mean, if this is true, Mr. Beast's career is over. Let me just say that. I mean, let's just do some math here real quick. One milk chocolate Feastables bar contains 2 servings of 170 calories and 12 grams of sugar. Each box of Feastables has 10 chocolate bars or 20 servings. So one box of milk chocolate Feastables, in total, if the kid ate all 10 of them, he would have had 3,400 calories and 240 grams of sugar. So I'm sure the kid would feel great after eating all of that chocolate. Anyways, our subscriber says that this wasn't the only challenge that Mr. Beast gave them. They asked for a few more volunteers, and after Mr. Beast picked 3 more people, he had our subscriber and the 3 other volunteers stand shoulder to shoulder in the shape of a square. He then brought out a roll of duct tape and had his bodyguards make some room from the crowd. Our subscriber then claims that Mr. Beast used the duct tape to make a square around himself and the 3 other volunteers. He then said that Mr. Beast told the kids whoever could stand in this square for over 24 hours will get a lifetime supply of Feastables. At first, our subscriber thought that this was going to be super easy. However, to be honest, they kind of didn't want the Feastables because they really didn't like them and said that it tasted like cardboard. By the way, I personally have tried Feastables and I think that they're pretty good. I will say they aren't absolutely amazing, but they are decent. Anyways, what made our subscriber actually decide to compete in this challenge and go for the long run is the thought that he'd be able to sell the Feastables that he gets for free to kids in his school. And honestly, that's a good idea. I mean, if you even just bought Feastables at the normal price and brought them to school, I bet you could turn some profit by selling them to your classmates. Getting them for free though, I mean, you'd actually be rolling in some dough. Anyways, like I said, at first, our subscriber thought that this was going to be super easy. They were thinking to themselves, how hard could it be to stand in a square for 24 hours? But for our subscriber, as minutes turned to hours, they started to feel some serious strain on their legs and back. After all, they had to stand in the circle, and there was nothing for them to shift their weight onto. So they were stuck just standing there shoulder to shoulder in one position the entire time. Our subscriber says that it was like torture. Yep, Mr. Beast's career is definitely over after this one, guys. Torturing children for a YouTube challenge. Yeah, that's game over. Who am I kidding? That wouldn't be game over. What's actually game over is whenever Mr. Beast cures people's blindness. That's what gets him canceled. So I'm sure if the internet, more specifically Twitter, saw that Mr. Beast was forcing kids to eat 10 chocolate bars and then stand in a circle for 24 hours, they wouldn't have a problem with that. They would just have a problem that he cured people's blindness. Anyways, yeah, I mean, the story is like very obviously fake at this point. But like I said, it's interesting. This kid is really good at making up stuff, let me just say. They said that as time went on, 1 volunteer left. They guess it was something like 2 hours into the challenge. And like I said, our subscriber and the rest of the volunteers left were really struggling. But as they claim, to make matters worse, Mr. Beast started to mess with the contestants. He claims that Jimmy would come over and start to poke the kids and try to make them laugh. Or he would have Chris or Chandler come over and make weird faces at them. Like, seriously, where is this kid coming up with this stuff? Why would they go up and make weird faces at them? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Anyways, our subscribers said that it was super humiliating, but they didn't want to give up, and they were determined to complete this challenge and get the free chocolate bars no matter what. The subscriber claims that after 10 hours, it was down to just him and 1 other volunteer. Now remember, this wasn't a competition to see who was the last person to be in the square. It was more just an endurance test to see who can spend 24 hours in the square to get free unlimited chocolate bars from Mr. Beast. Our subscriber claimed that after 16 hours in, the other volunteer left, and that they were the only person left. But like they said, they were determined, and they were gonna get this free chocolate. Now, of course, if this was reality, I doubt this kid would make it even like 4 or 5 hours. Like, standing for that long just as a kid without sitting or any breaks or anything like that, it's just way too much. He would have been out of there. But of course, he has to look like the hero for his story that he's making up. So show the hero he is. He says, finally, after what felt like an eternity, the 24 hours were up. He says that he was dizzy and disoriented from standing in one spot for so long. But he said after the timer was up and he looked up, of course expecting Mr. Beast to congratulate him, he claims that Mr. Beast just walked away laughing with his friends and didn't grant him any prize. Yep, I'm very, very sure. Anyways, our subscriber goes on to say, I felt so used and humiliated. I thought Mr. Beast was a nice guy, but he turned out to be a total jerk. And those Feastable chocolate bars, they're a total scam. Don't waste your money on them. Okay, buddy. I'm sure that story was 100% true and authentic. I actually ended up responding to this person and asking them to send the selfie that they said they got for proof, and they just sent me the laughing emoji, so I guess that they too knew that it was fake. But I mean, hey, that was a pretty good story nonetheless. Today, I have another spoiled kid story for you guys. This one is about one of my subscribers who was friends with the spoiled kid, and they went to Disneyland together, and it's definitely one of the most severe cases of spoiled kid syndrome I've ever seen. And then also the kid's parents are pretty entitled as well. I'm sure you guys are gonna love it. Make sure you guys like the video right now for free air. Subscribe to help me get to 10,000 subscribers. And yeah, with that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So this all started whenever my subscriber was invited to go to Disneyland with one of his friends. He was super excited as this was gonna be his first time ever going to Disney, and he was gonna get to go with one of his good friends at the time. For the sake of the story, we're gonna call our subscriber Noah, and his friend, we'll call him Tim. So Noah was super excited to go to Disney, like I said, but first he'd had to convince his parents to let him go. This should be easy though, because his parents weren't super strict. The only problem Noah was probably gonna run into was money problems. He was pretty doubtful that his parents were gonna just give him a bunch of money randomly to go to Disney World and miss out on a bunch of school, but I mean, how could he not take his chances? So right after he got home from school, he told his parents the news. He told them how Tim was allowed to take a friend with him to Disneyland and that Tim wanted it to be him. And as expected, the parents, who you could tell were very sad that they had to say this, said that they just simply didn't have the money to send him to Disneyland right now. Now, Noah was understanding, of course, but regardless, he was pretty upset. He messaged Tim on Xbox and told him the sad news. Noah's message said something like, hey man, I was really excited to come to Disney, and my parents would have been cool with it, but they say that they just don't have the money to spend right now. And that's whenever Tim responded with, oh, so they don't care if you go? You can come? And Noah was like, yeah, they wouldn't care if I went, but no, we don't have money. And that's whenever Tim responded with just LOL all caps. He told Noah that this was part of his birthday and that he was never gonna have to pay in the first place. Tim literally thought that Noah was joking with him, asking him if that was like a joke, saying that he couldn't come because of money. Noah, all excited, told his parents, and they were like, if they really are paying, yeah, you can go, but make sure you say thank you a million times. And also, of course, they made sure that he kept up with his schoolwork. Noah, of course, agreed, and he started packing up for Disney World. They were leaving just the next day after school, so this was on really short notice, and it was a pretty sporadic decision. So during school the next day, Noah got all of his schoolwork that he needed, and I mean, there was a lot, but he didn't really care. He didn't want it to distract him during the vacation, and to be honest, Noah was like a C average student, so he probably wasn't going to be doing the work anyways. I mean, if you're going to Disney World, are you really going to be worried about homework? I mean, me personally, absolutely not, but make sure you do your homework, kids. Seriously, do your homework. Noah leaves school early that day along with Tim. Tim's parents picks them both up. Noah's parents already dropped off the suitcase at their house earlier, so they were ready to go to Disney World straight from school. So after checking out early from the school office, they go outside and start walking towards Tim's car. Now, Noah at the time, even though he was pretty good friends with Tim, he hadn't really been to Tim's house. They were more friends in school, and they would play a lot of video games together. So this was his first time at meeting Tim's parents, and also his first time seeing what Tim's like actual life was all about. So they get to the car, and no joke, Noah, our subscriber, says that the car that they walked up to that they were going to then go inside of was a straight up Lamborghini. Now you may be wondering how Tim and Noah, the mom and dad, were all going to fit into one Lamborghini. Well, they weren't, because it's only 2 seats and no one was sitting on laps or anything like that. Rather, another Lamborghini comes around the corner. It was Tim's dad in a green Lamborghini. Tim's dad rolls down the window and goes, so, who's coming with me? Tim was like, hey, Noah, you can go with him. I want to be with my mom. So Noah, very confused at this point, goes, okay. And he gets into the green Lamborghini with Tim's dad inside. Meanwhile, Tim got into the blue Lamborghini with his mom. I mean, like, holy crap, 2 Lamborghinis, one family, each of them taking one of them to go to the airport. Apparently, they're just super poor. Like, why were they not driving Bugattis is my question. Anyways, Noah gets into this super cool car. Tim's dad goes, "Who's excited for Disney?" That's exactly what he sounded like too. I do a really good impression of Tim's dad. I heard some audio recordings. Then he pulls out this Disney gift bag that was literally just like a present full of Disney stuff. And he gave it to Noah. He said, "This is for you, bud. We're gonna have the best time ever." At this point, Noah was ecstatic. I mean, he just got to get inside of a Lamborghini. He was now driving in a Lamborghini on his way to Disney World, where he was gonna get to go there for completely free. He was missing school, and now Tim's father was giving him a Disney care package. It had one of those necklaces that you put all the Disney pins on. Then it had a bunch of the tradable Disney pins that you put on the necklace. It had a few Disney themed shirts, some Mickey Mouse ears, you know, all of that good stuff. Now, me personally, I wouldn't have gotten like 90% of this stuff even at the park, but Tim's father was getting this just for his son's friend even before the trip started, before they even got to the airport. That's pretty crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure the last time I went to Disney, which was probably like around 10 years ago, could be even longer to be honest, maybe it's more like 13 years. I think I did get one of those pin trade necklace things with like maybe 4 or 5 pins, and I still have that thing to this day. But that being one of the quote unquote tiny things that Noah was gonna get, that's pretty wild. I mean, those things ain't cheap. It's Disney branded. Those things are expensive. Anyways, as they got to the airport, Noah noticed how rich this family actually was. He truly didn't know prior. First thing he noticed is that they went through the fast lane in security, you know, the one that you have to pay for that nobody ever pays for. Yeah, they got to skip all the security. They didn't have to wait in the long line that was there. Then, right after they made it through security, they went and got something to eat at one of the fancy restaurants in the airport. Now, Noah was only given a few $100s, so he was trying to be very careful with how he spent his money. So he said he wasn't hungry and only ordered a tiny bit of food. Then whenever the waitress came around to get checks, Noah was trying to tell the waitress that his was separate and that he was going to pay for his own meal. But then the family was like, "No more of that for the rest of this trip, all right? You're not paying for anything. It is Tim's birthday and we're going on vacation. You're not paying." Now, Noah, of course, you know, kind of embarrassed at this point, confused. He simply just said thank you, but you guys know that situation whenever you get put in it. It's always kind of awkward. I know me personally, I always feel wrong taking the free stuff, but I don't go back and forth with like all the, no, please don't pay for me. If they say it more than once, I'll let them pay for me, all right? Vice versa, you know, I'll usually return the favor next time I go out to eat with my friends. If they pay for me, I'll pay for them next time. Anyways, they get on the plane. Of course, you know, they're flying first class. They have those nice comfy seats that recline and everything. I mean, I guess Tim has just been living in luxury in secret this whole time because Noah was seriously so shocked by all of this. Even to this day, after everything that happened, Noah doesn't even know what his parents do for a living, but I guess that they make a lot of money. Maybe they own like Tesla or something. I seriously don't know. So the first day they get to Disney World and they're just spending time in the hotels. Noah says he can't even estimate how much money they spent simply just at the hotel the day before that they even went inside of the park. But basically his parents were just buying him anything and everything. And for the most part, anything that Tim wanted to do, the parents would pay for both Tim and Noah to do it. So that was all fun, but then finally the day of Disney World came to be. They finally were going to be visiting the park. Now, today was actually the day of Tim's birthday. So, you know, this is like kind of his birthday celebration. So pretty much since his parents have so much money and, you know, Tim is pretty spoiled. I wouldn't even say pretty spoiled. This kid is extremely spoiled. He was going to be asking for anything and everything at Disney that day. But were his parents going to let him do and get whatever he wants? I guess you're going to have to find out. So once they enter the park, Tim points to the skip your line thing and he says, "All right, we're going there right now." It wasn't even a question on if he can go there or, you know, can we go there in a second? So is everything good? No, it was, we are going there now and we're buying us all skip the line tickets. Yet Tim was not going to be waiting in line at Disney World on his birthday. Absolutely not. So they walk over to the building where you buy the skip the line thing. And ironic enough, there was a line to skip the line. This is whenever Tim starts to get all whiny. He goes, "I thought that I was not going to be waiting in lines today." He was practically yelling, but he wasn't quite there yet. But you can can tell he was pretty mad. So whenever the parents said, this should be the only line we're waiting in today, honey, because we're going to be buying the thing and then we can skip lines, all right? I promise. That's whenever Tim's entitlement came out and he said, screw this, I'm not waiting in line. And he told mom to give him a crisp $100 bill, which for some reason she gave it to him. And then he walked to the front of the line and said, here, this is for you. Just let me go in front of you and buy my tickets. Now, this guy at the front of the line was like, okay, here, take it. I'll take the money, yeah. Which, I mean, how couldn't you? The dude probably just dumbly spent $250, $260 to skip lines at Disney World. Of course he's gonna want $100. So yeah, Tim skips this line. Now, the other people in between who were also waiting were pretty mad, but I mean, at the end of the day, if that guy up front lets you in front, then guess what? You're in front. So they get the tickets and they continue on walking through the park. Now, since they had these fast passes, they were not gonna have to be waiting in lines at all that day. They could just go and walk through the fast lane, and that's exactly what they did. So they got to ride pretty much all of the roller coasters that they wanted to pretty quickly, and after a few hours they were pretty much done with the rides. They went to one of the small stores and got some snacks. Of course, Tim's parents paying for absolutely everything, but then Tim decided that it was time to go shopping. Now, Noah mentions that he is literally not exaggerating whatsoever here. Tim wanted to go to every single store that they passed, and I mean every single store. There was not a single store being passed without them at least entering it. Now, granted, some of them Tim would just walk in, notice he doesn't want anything, and then he would leave. But for a lot of them, Tim would make his parents buy him all kinds of stupid stuff. I mean, some of it is cool, right? Like, there's some cool stuff in those Disney stores that would be awesome to have, but I mean, the majority of it is stuff that you're not going to be using past like your day at Disney. Anyways, Tim got pretty much everything. He got those light up swords, some giant plushies, 3 different types of Mickey Mouse ears for some reason. Noah says that the pin necklace that Tim had was completely full. Like, at that point, there was no room for any more pins. It was literally just a necklace made out of pins, which, if you guys didn't know, those Disney pins, they cost a lot of money. Like, they're not cheap at all. But that was like the big thing that Tim was buying. He wanted every pin, basically. And you know, it was Tim's birthday. Of course, Tim was gonna get every single pin that he wanted. Anyways, they ended up spending more time shopping than they did riding rides. I mean, like Noah said, it only took them a few hours to get all the rides done, but they still had plenty of time left in the park, and all they did was just shop and shop and shop. And they seriously had so much stuff that everybody in their party, Tim, his mom, his dad, and even Noah, was carrying so much crap. And on top of that, his dad was also lugging around one of those wagons full of stuff too. No joke, they probably had like $50,000 worth of souvenirs and Disney stuff that they were carrying around. Everyone had to have been looking at them like they were crazy or just rich, or maybe both. Anyways, as the sun began to set, the group started making their way towards the Disney castle because they wanted to watch the end of the day Disney parade and the fireworks. However, there was a big crowd, but Tim wanted to be at the front of this big crowd because he wanted to go and see the parade. So of course he asks his mom for some more money, which of course she also complies with. And he starts just giving a bunch of people money as if he was like Mr. Beast or something, and they let him move up in front of them. I mean, all the parents that he was offering money to probably just spent a ton of money on their kids in Disney, so once again, how could they not accept this money? Like, if some kid comes up to me in Disney after I just spent a dumb amount of money, I would gladly take the money and let him go in front of me. Also, at least he's not just pushing his way through, you know, he's offering money for it, right? I mean, sure, it's entitled, sure, he's spoiled, but at least he's respectable. Well, the next thing he would do isn't that respectable, but I digress. So the parade starts, and that's whenever he looks over to his mom, and he says that he wants to ride on one of the parade floats. The mom was like, that's impossible. We just can't do that. We can't offer them money or anything. Like, there's just no way you're gonna be able to get on one of these parade floats, Tim. And then he looked over to his dad, and his dad was just like, yeah, I mean, she's right. There's no way we can get you on the parade float. I know it's your birthday. I think you had a pretty good birthday so far. Wouldn't you say so? And Tim was like, all of this will mean nothing unless I get to go on a parade float. At this point, Noah was just absolutely baffled at Tim. I mean, he wasn't gonna say anything. It was the dude's birthday, and he was his friend. But Noah was just thinking to himself, like, no way he's saying all of this and demanding that he gets to be put on a parade float after his parents just spent so much money, like literally so much, a ridiculous amount of money on him at Disney. And also on Noah too. Like, the parents have been buying Noah stuff too. Anytime they bought Tim something, they would try and, you know, find something or at least offer it to Noah. But Noah often would be like, I don't need that. I really don't want it. I wouldn't use it. Like, please don't buy it for me. And though sometimes the parents would ignore Noah, other times they'd be like, okay, yeah, I can see why you don't need that. But of course they would still buy it for Tim. Anyways, point is, Noah just could not believe how unappreciative Tim was. So at this point, Tim really wanted to go on the parade floats, but his parents, for the first time of the whole entire day, told him, no, like, this isn't going to be possible. I'm sorry, we would if we could. And that's whenever Tim just went... left out a big laugh, and he sprinted straight to one of the parade floats, like literally right in the middle of the parade. He jumped up on one of the parade floats and took it for a ride. It was at this point that security was not too happy, and they had to put a whole stop to the parade and get Tim off of the float. At the time, Tim was on the float talking to Ariel, asking her to marry him. And Ariel was actually laughing at all this because, I mean, this is just a crazy scenario. A little kid goes and runs straight up on the float and says that he wants to marry you. I'd laugh too. Anyways, though, security finally gets Tim down, and they demand that Tim takes them to his parents. At this point, Tim is throwing a temper tantrum, saying it's his birthday and that they can't touch him and that they were going to get sued. All of this crazy stuff, and eventually, Tim's parents start yelling out, "Don't touch my son! Don't touch my son!" And that's whenever they bring Tim over to his parents. They then tell Tim's parents that they must leave the park immediately. At this point, Tim is just bawling his eyes out. He's all upset, and his parents are getting all rowdy with the security, saying that they could buy out the whole entire park. All this crazy stuff. It was just an insane commotion. Everyone was staring at them. The parade was put on a hold at the time, and they had become the new parade. And for Noah standing there with them, it was extremely embarrassing. He just put his head down and, like just twiddled his thumbs till eventually all of them got kicked out of the park. Now, that was it for them for Disney. And then on the plane ride home, Tim kept talking to Noah, saying how sorry he was that his parents were so bad on the trip, and that he was sorry that Noah had to deal with his awful parents. And Noah was like, no, dude, your parents were awesome. Like, I couldn't have asked for anything more. And Tim was like, all right, I know you're just saying that because you want to be nice, but you could tell the truth. And Noah was like, no, seriously, like, they're amazing. I think you're overreacting a little bit. At that point, Tim pouted a little bit, and he just didn't talk to Noah for the rest of the plane ride home. And yeah, Noah just had a very awkward ride home with Tim's dad in the Lambo. And Noah was thanking him a million times over, and the dad was like, seriously, dude, don't worry about it. We messed up the trip anyways. And you can tell that the dad was just very upset about what had happened, and for some reason he thought that he was the one that messed up. I could only imagine what Tim's mom thought. It seemed that they both thought similarly, and it really just sucked because Tim just absolutely had them under his control. They were like his puppets, and they had an absurd amount of money, and he was honestly taking advantage of them. Anyways, Noah kind of cut ties with Tim after that trip. They played video games a few times, but things were just never the same. Noah knew what type of person Tim was deep down, and that's kind of the end of their friendship. So yeah, like I said, the most spoiled kid I've ever heard of. Today I have a story for you guys about this emo kid who ends up crashing the school talent show. It's pretty interesting, pretty funny. I know you guys are gonna enjoy it. Like the video for infinite money glitch in real life, and subscribe so I could hit 1 trillion subscribers. With that all being said and done, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. So for our subscriber, we're gonna call him Carter. Carter at the time was a junior in high school, and he had a bunch of classes with this one super emo kid who we're gonna call Damien. Now, Damien wasn't just emo, he was an ultra mega super emo. He had black hair, tight jeans, a bunch of band t-shirts, all of that. Of course, he had the eyeliner, the black fingernails, and you would know instantly anytime Damien was around because he would have headphones on, but his music would be turned up to the max volume, and it was basically like he was just wearing speakers. Dude was always listening to some type of screamo. It would be like people yelling and screaming with some hard heavy metal playing in the background. And as Carter says, his music was turned up so much, and he didn't have amazing headphones or anything like that. He had like the skull candies. I mean, I'm sure you guys know exactly what kind of person I'm talking about. Every school had that one guy, and Damien was that guy, but just like times a million. See, not only did Damien look the part, he also acted the part. If you had a conversation with him, he was going to talk to you about how much he hated society, and he would go on and on about how he was an outcast. He was just different and nobody understood him. On top of that, pretty much everything that he owned was black. He had his black clothing, his black backpack, his black headphones, his black notebook. During school, he wouldn't even use normal pencils. He would only use his black colored pencils. And this is all because he hates society. He's different. He's the outcast. Now, Damien may have thought he was an outcast to like everybody at school, but he still had a small group of friends. Now, they all, of course, also thought that they were all outcasts. They all too hated society and thought they were different. I mean, you guys get the gist. So it was lunchtime, and Carter says that there was an announcement over over the loudspeaker. The secretary announced that there was going to be a talent show next week and that they were taking applications, which you can get from the cafeteria starting today. Immediately, a huge crowd formed in the cafeteria around the applications, which were hanging up on the wall at the time. And that's whenever Damien decided to make an announcement to the cafeteria. He slammed his backpack on the ground to make a loud noise so everybody turned and looked at him, and he jumped up on the cafeteria table. "There's no point in you guys joining the talent show because me and my band already won. Our music's way better than whatever you losers are gonna come up with. Yeah, society," Damien said. And then he got down from the cafeteria table, and then one of the teachers who were on lunch duty at the time went over and started yelling at him, saying that he can't do that. And that's whenever Damien started going, "Screw you just don't like me because I'm different." And yeah, at that time, lunch was coming to an end, and a ton of people were applying to be a part of the talent show, Damien and his emo group of friends included. So Carter was actually next door neighbors with one of Damien's emo friends. We'll call her Susie. So Carter gets home from school that day, and he has a lot of homework to do and 3 tests that he has to study for. Now, Carter wasn't a slacker. He took school pretty seriously, so he wanted to get started right away to get all of his work done, which he did. He started off with doing his math homework because he says that that was the easiest. And just as he was finishing up and was about to move on to his history homework, "Nothing matters. We're all gonna die," Carter heard Damien singing next door to him. Now, this wasn't unusual. You see, Damien actually ran a band with his friends, and sometimes they would practice at Susie's house, but this had only happened a few times before, and today was really not the day for this to be happening for Carter. He had to get a lot done, and the last thing he wanted was a bunch of screamo echoing through his streets, but that's what he was gonna get. He heard, "Bring it from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4." And there was like the clicking of drumsticks, and then some heavy metal guitar started playing, the drums were banging, and Damien was screaming his lungs off. This went on all day, and now Carter was not the type of person who would go down there and like yell at them or anything. Like, he wasn't a Karen, right? Not even a Karen, really. I mean, he just didn't really want to be a bother to anybody. Also, he was on the low, kind of scared of Damien. He didn't really know what would happen if he went over there and was like, "Can you guys be quiet? I'm trying to do my homework here." He probably thought that Damien was like gonna put some curse or do some ritual on him. I don't know. Anyways, though, Carter ended up not getting like anything done because their band was rehearsing all night long. Eventually, though, the music stopped at around like 1 a.m. At this point, Carter was laying in his bed in defeat, but as he realized that they were gone, he decided to stay up and, get all of his work done, and he ended up going to school the next day on no sleep whatsoever. As Carter walked into his first class, he saw Damien and his friends, and he gave them a little bit of a look. Not saying anything directly to them, but, it was kind of a stink eye, to which Damien responded, "How'd you like the music last night, bud? We're gonna win that talent show, right?" That's exactly what he sounded like, by the way. I heard some audio recordings of it, and yeah, it's a perfect match. Anyways, Carter was kind of on his last nerve here. I mean, he had so much work to do last night, and he ended up having to pull an all-nighter to get it done because of their loud music. So Carter ended up growing a pair, and he responded to them. Told him that, yeah, it sounded great, but that he had a lot of work to do, and it was kind of distracting. That's whenever Damien said, "Better get used to it because we're rehearsing every night, yeah." Carter was ecstatic. Every night? Great. At that point, the bell for first period rang, and the morning announcement came on. After some students did the Pledge of Allegiance over the speaker, the secretary got back on, and she announced that she had the contestants for next week's talent show. She started listing off names, but at first, none of the names included Damien or his band. As more and more names called, Damien kept saying stuff like, "They're saving the best for last, guys." And he just kept anticipating his name over and over again, until eventually the secretary said one last name, and then the announcement shut off. Damien was pretty frantic at this point. There's a mistake, right, guys? They said my name, I just didn't hear it. My ears must be clogged or something." Trying to come up with an excuse for why his name wasn't called. Damien was just in disbelief that he wasn't chosen to be one of the contestants. But then he started going on about how he's an outcast, and this is just showing that society doesn't want him. All of that crap, and he just kept going on and on about it. His friends, too. Then eventually he was like, "You know what, guys, we'll show him." And then all of his friends were like, "Yeah." Everybody agreeing. And then he stopped blabbing his mouth, and he put his head down, and then the teacher finally started class. He asked for everyone's homework, to which Carter handed him his. Of course, Damien and his friends never turned in their homework. They would never do their homework, nothing like that. This was actually the second year that they were repeating this grade alone, so there was that. But Carter turns in his homework along with a few of the other students. And now this teacher, he would give them an assignment, and then he would grade the homework in the meantime and get it back to them them within like a couple minutes. So they were working on their assignment. Carter was on the edge of falling asleep at this point because he had gotten no sleep the day before. And that's whenever he got his assignment back, and it showed that he had failed his homework assignment. He got none of the answers right, which this was honestly a first for this year for Carter. He was a straight A student, perfect grades, so failing homework was a pretty big deal for him. He told the teacher that it was because Damien and his band were practicing all day outside of his house, and the teacher said that there was nothing he could do about it, but that he shouldn't have to worry about that anymore because they shouldn't be practicing for the talent show anymore because they aren't a part of it. And that's whenever Damien picked up his head and started screaming at the teacher, saying that he was everything wrong with this world. Anyways, that day, Carter only did good on like one of his homework assignments, and it was the easy one. The other ones he turned in, he did awful on, and he was also pretty sure that he did pretty bad on his tests, which the next day he would come to find out that yes, he failed both tests. That day he went home and he decided that he was going to be studying extra hard and paying extra close attention to all of his homework. He also wanted to get it done pretty fast so he can go to bed because he still hadn't slept at this point. So he gets most of his homework done, and then he starts his daily study session, and that's whenever once again he hears the screamo coming from next door. Society hates me. Yeah, you guys get the gist. At this point, Carter had had enough. He could not go another day with no sleep, no studying, and he had already confronted them a little bit earlier about this, respectfully of course, but he still said something. So he goes outside, walks over to Susie's house, and Damien and his whole band, all of his friends, are sitting in Susie's garage with the garage door open. Carter goes over and he once again very respectfully says, "Hey man, I didn't get any sleep last night from you guys. You know, like I said, the music sounds great, but I really need to study today and I need to get some sleep. Can you guys please take it somewhere else?" And then Carter asked why they were even doing this in the first place because they couldn't be part of the talent show. And Damien was like, "Oh, don't worry, bro. We're gonna be part of the talent show." And then Damien was like, "All right, guys, this one goes out to Carter. 1, 2, 3, 4. They started to sing a song that was like, "Carter needs to do his homework. Carter wants to study." And they were basically just making fun of Carter in the song. And Carter just gave up and went back to his house. And he went yet another day without getting the proper studying done. And also, he didn't get to go to sleep until about 1:30 because they were up all night once again rehearsing for a talent show that they weren't even supposed to be a part of. This went on throughout the weekend and then all week long the next week. Carter hadn't gotten a good night's sleep in over a week, and he wasn't doing so hot in school. I mean, he was able to recover a little bit, but he still was doing a lot worse than he was before. So with that, it was finally the night of the talent show, and there were all kinds of different acts. There was singing, dancing, magic tricks. One of the kids did a stand-up comedy show that was pretty funny, and then there was the final act, who was this one girl who had a very great singing voice, and she just sung her heart out, and everyone was applauding, but then the lights all turned off. The auditorium was in complete darkness, and all the kids and parents in the audience were super confused. You could hear whispers among everybody, people talking about like if the power went out or what's going on, and then suddenly a spotlight turns on, and it's pointed at Damien. He's sitting there with all his friends in the background, sitting in the darkness. They were all dressed up in their emo attire, complete with fingerless gloves, studded belts. Their hair was all styled and stuff. Damien points to one of his friends and he starts going away on the drums, and then his other friend joins on the bass. And at this point, you know, it was super loud. It was like their screamo music that they had been practicing all the time in the garage that kept Carter up all night. And it was just echoing through the auditorium. People were plugging their ears. The microphones in the auditorium couldn't really handle it, and they were all screeching. And then if that wasn't bad enough, Damien started to do his screamo into the mic, and that was screeching too with all the music. It was just a nightmare. Everyone was in shock. Everyone was covering their ears. Some people were leaving. They couldn't stand the loud noise. And that's whenever the principal got up on the stage and started yelling at them to stop. But they couldn't hear the principal. I mean, nobody in that auditorium could hear what the principal was saying truly. You could tell that he was furious though. He started unplugging all the microphones, and then eventually it started to get quiet in the auditorium again. That's whenever the principal yelled out, "Damien, what is the meaning of all this? You guys know that you aren't supposed to be a part of this talent show." That's whenever Damien replied, "We're just showing the world what real art is, sir. We refuse to conform to society's expectations. We're showing you guys what real music is." And that's whenever Carter shows up on the stage. He grabs the mic out of the principal's hand, and at this point, he was on his single last nerve. If there was even a speck of a nerve left, he was on it. And at this point, Carter says that he just absolutely snapped. He was like, "Music? You want to hear real music? You want to see what real art is like?" And yeah, Carter took the microphone and he nicely handed it to Damien. Now, that's in quotation marks. You could only guess what he did with the microphone to Damien. And Damien and Carter both ended ended up getting expelled from the school, and the talent show was basically ruined. Everybody just ended up leaving, and they never got to announce a true winner. But yeah, that was the story from Carter. It kind of all over the place, not gonna lie, but sounds like Damien didn't have an amazing time.